What's going on? What's going on? Welcome back to When the Ball Stops Bouncing. Man, I have a special guest for you guys here today. Santa Claus baby, man. Born on December 25th, graduate of Carver, Shippensburg legend, 15.4 yards of reception, aka Mr. First Down. Professional athlete, played for the Eagles, Browns, Titans, community leader, CEO, visionary, founder of the Joe Gamble Foundation. When I talk about focus, I think of Joe Gamble. Man, I'm just telling you, man, growing up, my guy, Joe Gamble, he really taught me. He showed me what it meant to be a professional athlete. I think about my days training when I was dream chasing. Coach Troy, he was our leader. He was our trainer. Played the same music every single time we worked out. Never had a different, never had a different track list. Didn't matter because he was going to kill you so hard in the workout that you didn't want to say nothing. So, man, I'm here to introduce to you guys my guy, Joe Gamble.
Oh no, brother. Hey,
What's going on, man?
just listening to that, man, it brings me back to memories, bro. Seeing you as a student athlete during that time. I'm very proud of you, of the man you've become, the leader you've become of men in our communities, and the platform you've also provided for former athletes such as myself to share our testimony about life after sports. And so I'm thrilled to be on with you, man. And that's hilarious, that story about TZ Sports. I swear, to be honest, man, I don't think none of us was listening to the music.
Your ears, because you know what, your ears will pop like when you're on a plane, man. Like, man, you work out with Coach Troy. By the end of the workout, you sleeping on the turf. He like, man, all right, get out of here. We got the next group. Man, I can't go nowhere, man. I'm
Bro,
taking a nap.
bro.
I need a 10 or 15-minute nap.
Afterwards, I would be slumped over in the car for about an hour after the workout. Sure, like it was
Oh man.
3.5 hour to 4 hour workout. Uh, but it was a blessing, man, just to,
It
be
was.
able to put in that work, start to pick up on the work ethic that it takes to become a actual professional athlete. And then a lot of times, Coach Troy will be off somewhere else training, some of the younger athletes. And that showed for me, I started to realize that to become a professional athlete and the separation that it takes when we start to talk about professional athletes, you actually have to do things on your own. And
That's right.
you can't really count on your coaches to be there to tell you got to work out and you got to do X, Y, and Z. You
Mhm.
start to pick up on the habit of, oh, this is what I need. I need extra work. I need to do
That's right.
this to in order to be better. And so I really appreciate those days, man. And I think we started to learn that that work ethic piece, which made everybody pretty much in that circle successful. When I look at everybody that's
That's so true.
involved and all of the athletes, everybody's successful in life, and so that's a blessing to be have that circle.
No, absolutely. And if you think about it, like you just said, I mean, who's working out at that intensity for 3.5, 4 hours every single day,
Yeah,
right? So it has to be a bigger reason or a bigger purpose. And I think you eloquently spoke to that a second ago, right? You said life after sports because there is life after sports, right? And I think so often being an athlete, you identify as an athlete.
yeah,
Right. I think that, I can speak specifically in my case, every time, whether it was, middle school, high school, college, every door that you walked in, you were always the new athlete at the school.
yeah.
So, let's talk about that from your perspective. What was it like for you growing up in Baltimore?
Oh man. I love, well, first of all, football wasn't even my first love of a sport. It was
Really?
actually, it was basketball. So we gonna have to get out on the court one on one.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I remember even having the work ethic as a young kid, man, growing up in the streets of Baltimore, dribbling the basketball up and down my neighborhood block, just practicing on moves consistently. I remember there was street signs that said no ball playing in the street, but
Yep.
we never listened to that. We were out
No.
in the street. We didn't have a whole lot of resources and outlets. growing up in Baltimore. So we would play football in the street, man. And I remember,
Hmm.
stepping aside when the cars were coming, and
Yep. Yep.
you would make a catch, but then you had to watch out for a car because it's parked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I think that was like the extra skill that we learned. You
Yeah.
we had a Troy Polamalu out there,
Yeah.
but nah, just that work ethic at an early age, and and learning to stay out of the streets. For me, sports, it was for me growing up, it was either sports or the streets, to be honest.
Hmm.
um Growing up in West Baltimore, I know a lot of people that'll watch this podcast will automatically think Baltimore and The Wire, because that's the
Hmm.
show that came out of Baltimore. But we actually I lived that in those neighborhoods, and so growing up, sports actually kept me out of some of those bad situations that that tend to happen in the inner city. And so growing up, a lot of times, the drug dealers and folks, they see that you play sports and you're good at it. They actually
That's
during
right.
that time, they actually was like, "No, you young boy, go ahead and do your thing. We're gonna come see you play. We want to see you
Yep.
succeed." All of that type of stuff. It was a support and a respect factor around it. And so I continue to work, man. I continue to work at each one of my sports. I was a two sport athlete in high school, basketball and football, two sport all star. Um,
Mm.
wanted to go to college to play basketball as well. Ended up,
Yeah.
actually, I don't know if you knew this story, but I ended up going to the ACC basketball camp. Was doing well, and
I didn't know that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I ended up grabbing a rebound, came down on somebody's foot and broke my ankle.
Mm.
Yeah,
Sheesh.
yeah. And so the doctor said that I would never play sports again. But as you can see behind me, I got a couple
That's right.
jerseys that that say otherwise. but but yeah, man, so the work ethic I was able to pick up at an early age, the competitive nature. My dad, he really installed that competitiveness. I mean, I remember we used to sit and play Uno, and he
Hmm.
would beat me at Uno. I'd be like, "Nah, let's play again." He'd be like, "All right."
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then he would win, and he'd be like, "All right, it's bedtime," and I'd be hot, like, "No, we."
Yeah. Yeah.
So just having some of those things and growing up, I remember I always wanted to play against the best. I think it's a little different nowadays, where in a time with social media, people want to be seen, and and want to kind of star and overshadow other people. And so
Yep.
nowadays it's like, oh, I'll play against whoever, and I
Yeah.
could be that guy. But
Yeah.
growing up for me, it was like I always wanted to search out the best person, and everybody was like, "Hey, he's the best on the court, he's the best on the field." And I was like, "All right, well, let me see what I could do with him," and I feel like that translated in the actual games too. Wanting to go be the best ourselves, and continue that work ethic to be the best.
So when you have that mentality of wanting to play the best, wanting to be the best, right? Was there anybody along the way, or was there any moment along the way where you really said, like, I can really do this, right? Like you really solidified yourself in your career, and you said, "Nah, I'm really one of them."
Mm, mm. So in high school, I was that guy. In high school on the football field, I was like I said, a two sport all star. In college, it was quite the transition because obviously the speed of the game. The guys that are on the field are a whole lot bigger. Everybody's pretty much the star of their city. Uh,
Sure.
when you make it to college. And so there was a transition there where, I had to realize, like, okay, I can't just rely on my natural talent. To be honest, in high school, I never really lifted weights at all.
Okay.
And so it's funny. And so I went off of just natural talent and ability in high
Yep.
school. And so once I got to college, I remember vividly, because it was like a running joke almost, where when I hit the weight room, and everybody, how you get into the weight room in college,
Yeah.
and folks are doing their maxes, and they in the doing their thing. And so
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
bench, kid from the hood, I'm like, all right, throw the
Yeah.
135 on.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to out. I hit about 3 to 5 of them joints, and I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, I think that's my max right there.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I'm good right here.
That's me, right? I'm gonna leave it right here for my max. So,
Yeah.
guys was laughing and all that. But now, I mean, I put 225 on the rack now, and
That's
I
right.
do it 40 sometimes. So it's a different.
Yeah, yeah, you can warm up with it now, right?
But just going back to that, man, it was quite the transition for me. Even in a sense that I went to a PWI, a predominantly white
Mhm.
institution, and growing
Mhm.
up in West Baltimore, there weren't a whole lot of white folks that I had to actually interact with. And
Yeah.
so that in and of itself was actually a transition as well. It was a culture shock. And so,
Yep.
that I did deal with racism during that time. But it also kind of molded me to be able to navigate various rooms, and be
Yep.
able to kind of communicate with various cultures and all. But to answer your question, you know, uh, once I kind of continued along, I transitioned through college, started to lift weights. And so,
Yep.
that started to change my body at that time. And on top of that, I still had my natural ability. So I started to realize, like, oh, okay, like the weights are helping me get bigger and stronger and
Yep.
faster. And then I still got more talent than half these guys out on the field. So,
Yep.
it's a game changer. And so, I would say around my junior year, ESPN started to list the Division II
Wow.
top prospects for the NFL
Yep.
draft, and I started to hear some of to see some of the articles and hear some of the sports writers talk about how I had the opportunity to get drafted. And I think during that time I was like, oh, okay. Like I always had a dream
Yeah, it's
of,
real.
like, I want to be a professional athlete, but it's not really until you hear somebody else like, oh, that person right there, he's good enough to play in the league. And I was like, okay.
That's right.
I think I drank the
Yeah.
Kool-Aid then, because I was like,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right, now your boy,
Yeah.
now you working with something. um
Yep.
and so my junior year, I think I really got a hold of it, and started to take it seriously, where I felt like I can actually be a player in the NFL. And a lot of times, man, I tell people, I tell kids a lot of times, not everybody's going to realize or, understand your dream. And so,
That's right.
I realized, like, yeah, I could play in the league. I had the skills and ability, but not everybody around me, felt that way. And so,
Mhm.
there was naysayers, there was folks that, I mean, the NFL is like the top of the top, right? And so a lot of times, if, you don't feel you have the ability, you might speak to somebody else as if nobody has the ability, right? And
Ability.
so,
It's impossible.
there was people that were friends of mine that's like, well, the percentage of guys that make it to the league is like 0.2% or whatever the percentage is. And I'm like, man,
Yeah.
I ain't worried about the percentage. I'm good enough.
Yeah.
you know,
And percentage of people that make it out of Baltimore is 0.2% too. So I already defeated those
right,
odds. So I'm pretty sure I'm be all right over
right,
here.
right,
I just gotta, what I'm saying, score a couple touchdowns here and y'all can recognize that I can really do this.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So nah, I definitely feel that. So with that being the case though, um, thinking back to like you said, the naysayers, and your journey, making it, just making it out of Baltimore, but then also once you get out and really shifting that mentality, was there anybody that you looked up to as a kid, maybe locally, or was there, a player that you patterned your game after?
Mm. Patting my game after, I would say Shannon Sharp. I
Okay.
wore his numbers, and he's on. He has a show with Skip Bayless on. I watch him
Yep.
all the time. But he was someone that I always looked up to, in the sense that his receiving game, as a tight end. So my position is tight end. I always really took pride in the fact that, like you said, Mr. First Down. Like I caught everything, like anything thrown to me,
Yep.
I never dropped. And so I always took pride in, the ability to catch with my hands. I always did drills where I could work on my hands, never catching the ball, with my body or anything like that. And so that's someone who I looked up to. Ultimately, the reason why I wanted to play football was Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. So
Ah.
even before college, growing up, and seeing Deion Sanders and like the swagger back then. Like back then,
Hmm.
I'm growing up in the '80s and '90s where there aren't a lot of guys that have like that flair, that swagger that they bring to the table when they're playing a sport. And so like Dion, he came into it where he was just like he will bop around and he already
Yeah.
knew he showed confidence. He talked about like when you dress good, you play good, you all that you feel good. And so
Yeah.
like that really resonated with me. Where I wanted to be like Dion. I'm like, everybody want
Yeah.
to be like Mike. I want to be like Dion. I'm,
Prime.
you know,
Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm, I'm in the backyard doing the high step and the
Yeah.
Dion shuffle and all of that. Um,
Yep.
but he was somebody, between Dion and Shannon Sharp. Shannon, of course, being my position, and Dion, being a player where he kind of transcended the game, where he was able to bring his flair, his flavor into the sport, and just shine. Those are two players that I looked up to. And I took that grit and grind from Baltimore, man. You like you said, you come
Hmm.
out of Baltimore. There's not a whole lot of resources. You learn that work ethic real quick. Either you gonna sink or swim here on the
Hmm.
streets. And so, I kind of took that grit and that grind that I already had and utilized that with my skill, and was able to succeed, on sports.
So what was that like? So you got that grit, right? But then you ended up at Shippensburg University, right? So at Shippensburg, you're there. I don't know, like had you traveled much out of Baltimore at that point? Was that like what was it? Was that like a culture shock for you being at Shippensburg University? You got the academics, the school, you got the training program of college. What was that all like?
Oh man, it was definitely, like I said, it was a culture shock because it was predominantly white institution. But not only
Hmm.
that, it's set in a town where it was just around the college itself.
That's right.
So nothing's really in that town other than like farms, bars, and College of
Yep.
Shippensburg. You feel me? So
Yep. Yep.
um,
Yep.
it definitely was a culture shock. I hadn't really traveled. A lot of kids in Baltimore, you don't really get the opportunity to travel outside of your four corners of your neighborhood. Was blessed. My aunt and uncle at the time, they will always come and get me when I was in high school and middle
Mm,
school and take me down to Virginia Beach. And so
that's
during the
cool.
summer, yeah. So
Yep.
that gave me a opportunity to actually experience something other than the streets of Baltimore, and
Hmm.
so I could see like, okay, like there's more to it. There's better. There's cleaner. There's a whole lot more to life than just the hood in Baltimore. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to leave Baltimore and go to college. One of the
Hmm.
pushes is I wanted to go somewhere else and get more experiences outside of the city. And so Shippensburg, it was, at the time, it just, for me, it was a getaway from home. Definitely a huge culture shock. Um, but then also I had to learn how to navigate like my time management, man. Being a student
Mm.
athlete in college, you start to learn real quick. Like, they don't really care, if when you schedule your classes for and all of that. You are a student athlete. Maybe it
That's
should be
right.
athlete student,
Student, yeah,
but
yeah.
you got to make sure that you schedule your classes around practice, around film sessions, around and then you're traveling for games and things of that nature.
Games. Yep.
Um, and so I started to realize like, okay, like sometimes I even had to figure out whether I wanted to go to a class or take a nap. Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
making
yeah.
life decisions on the college campus, like, oh, I might want to take a nap before practice right now. So,
Yeah.
just navigating that, being by myself as a kid, you still 16, 17 on a college campus, navigating those things as a freshman and moving up into, your senior year in adult life. Those are some of the things that, were a huge transition because nobody's on your back. Nobody's going to tell you that you need to do this. but you know, in order to stay in school, in order to get the grades that you need to do certain things. And so yeah, you start to become an adult real fast. Like, okay, you got to
Yep.
make adult decisions on what you need to do. And so I was able to transition, man. You know, that Baltimore grit and grind, man. You know, we like chameleons. We could go anywhere and still be the hot topic. You feel me?
Yeah, always.
Yeah,
You figure it out.
you out in LA and
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. No, you climb the ranks pretty quick. You know, like if once you make it out, man, you climb the ranks pretty quick, and you're adaptable, right? Like you said, I mean, you went to PWI, but you're still adaptable, right? And you're very likable
yeah,
because that's we still from Charm
yeah,
City, right? So we're very charismatic people. People really will gravitate towards you, to your
yeah,
energy, and they're going to embrace you. They're always going to embrace you. And then obviously your skill set is going to speak for itself, right? And they see how well rounded you are. They're going to want to be a part of your journey.
yeah.
Um,
Nah,
so when you think about your journey and some of the different experiences that you had, let's just keep it at the college level. Let's just keep it right at that point. Are there any lessons, or is there any way you could have potentially been more prepared to be a successful student athlete?
mm, mm. Honestly, man, I don't think Baltimore public school system prepared me for college. The transition, in the classroom, was very hard. So I had to go to tutoring. I kind of had to rely on my work ethic off of the field. In terms of in the classroom because I'm competitive, and so but
Hmm.
when I mean competitive, that means everything. I want to be the
Hmm.
best at, whatever it is. So not just on the field, I want to be the best in the classroom. I remember growing up, I wanted to beat the girls with our grades and spelling
Yep.
all of that. Like I don't want nobody to beat me or nothing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
even to this day, like ain't no women gonna beat me. We go bowling. You, nah,
Yep.
I ain't gonna let you. I'm sorry.
I'm competing.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah. I
always going to
might
compete.
trip you when you go up
Yeah.
there. But nah, like you know, um, the college piece, I wasn't really ready. And so I just kind of had to lean heavily on my work ethic. There, I would say also my focus level at that time. My focus level
Mhm.
needed to be a little better in regards to preparation because I just as I was a younger kid, and so a lot of times your focus level isn't there. You get hit with a whole lot of things in college. So then it's the party life, it's the
Mhm.
girls, it's sports too, and working out. All
Yep.
of these different things are coming at you, and it's new. Um,
Yep.
so I feel like my focus level, really wasn't where it needed to be at that time. And over time, of course, it got better and my discipline got better. And then after a while, I started to, realize how to play the game of college.
Yes, sir.
When it comes to doing my work, keeping up with everything, and so that transition was a bit rough, but I still would, I think my first year I might have had like a 2.8, 2.8 GPA.
Yep.
It was
Yep.
like in transition, and ever since then, other than one semester where I had some issues back in Baltimore, some
Yep.
friends got shot and killed, my mom was sick, and my grades dropped during that time. But other than that, I really kept a steady, at least a 2.8,
Yep.
3 point something GPA throughout college. And so, I was able to kind of, stay, but I was a 3.96 GPA in high school. Uh,
That's
I didn't
amazing.
play that when it came to, and that's what I tell a lot of kids, man.
Opportunity zones are in areas in the United States that offer incentives to encourage investment. Investing in an opportunity zone can potentially provide benefits such as deferring capital gains, reducing taxes owed, and avoiding additional taxes on investment growth. Additionally, it can promote economic development and job creation in low income areas, offering diversification in investment portfolios and potentially generating higher returns. However, investing in opportunity zones also has risks and drawbacks, so it's important to consult a financial advisor or a tax professional before investing.
They'll actually send me their film and ask me
Hmm.
like, "Hey, Coach Joe, like, what do you think about my film and all?" And I watch that film, and they'll be super talented, and I'll be like, "All right, well, what about your grades?" And so,
Right.
and they'll be like, "Oh, well, I got a 2.2 in high school," and I'm like, look, man, you got to do better, because you're
You're gonna make
you're
it hard.
competing against the entire country for various
That's a
slots
good point.
at these colleges, and so you have to sell yourself and and actually make sure that you're putting the best product out there for them to actually pick up.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, man, like we forget. Like, yeah, the internet is so powerful. Social media is amazing,
Yeah,
but what it did was it created opportunity,
yeah,
right? So now it's kids that are all over the world that you're now competing for that same spot. They now have exposure. And they can understand what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and they can target you,
yeah,
right? And now with all the editing and everything, man, I mean, it can, man, I can imagine it could be pretty easy to miss on the kids. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have everything control that you can control, whether it's your academics, whether it's your spirituality,
yeah.
whether it's your routine, whether it's the community that you keep around you, man. All of us are now brands. We're all brands, man. We've always been brands, but it's been magnified now.
And,
So it's like, how are you being represented on these different social media
yeah.
platforms? I think in our generation, the way that they described it is, and I don't know, man, it could be true, but I think in our generation, the way they described it is, once you put it out on the internet, it's there forever.
It is, man. It is. A lot of times nowadays, kids and some people don't get opportunities just because of their social media presence.
Yeah.
I've seen kids' pages where they have pornographic
Yep.
material on their page. They're the first pictures that we see is them holding up their middle finger, and it's like,
Middle fingers. Yep.
you're actually there's you got to think about there's an investment that's taking place when a college is actually giving you a scholarship, or
Yep.
they're investing time and energy into you. So you're a representation of that school, and so it's a business. And so this is prior to you even getting to professional sports, and so you're still, like you said, a brand. You got to make sure that you live and walk that brand. So like your circle that you're around,
Hmm.
making sure you're around the right people. For me, even at this point, making sure that the people around you are better than you. A lot
That's
of
right.
times nowadays, a lot of times people are around folks that just look up to them, and then, they're a yes men. Yes, yeah, girl, you look good. Yeah, girl, do your thing. All of that. Or yeah, bro, you doing your thing. This and that. Keep doing you. Nah, like I need somebody around me that's high up in investments. What are you doing with your life? And you could do that at an early age too. Your network, they say, is your net worth, right? So making sure that you have your circle, like you said, making sure your spirituality is good, like making sure you're right with God. That's huge because without faith, for me, I wouldn't have made it to the league, to be honest,
Yep.
because there were so many variables and so many no's and so many different obstacles that were coming my way that my faith is what the only thing that I leaned on at the time, because I couldn't
Hmm.
even lean on. There was nobody that was like, "Yo, you gonna make it,"
Yeah.
because there's so
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
things. Like you come from Baltimore, you went to Carver High School, you went to a Division II school, all of these things, and it's like there weren't a whole lot of people that believed in me, and so you got to make sure your spirituality is good, um, and just make sure you're a hard worker. Make sure that you putting forth 110% effort in whatever it is that you're doing,
Yep.
and so once you do that, then even people will see like the effort that you're putting in, and they may even want to help you get
Hmm.
beyond what you're trying to do. I feel like Troy, my relationship with Troy Jones from TZ Sports is one of those testimonies for real. Like he saw the work ethic that I had, and you guys saw it as well. Like y'all were in high
That's right.
school, I was in the league at the time. And I came in. I didn't play any games, man. I worked out for 3 hours. I had a goal, that I wanted to be. And I don't know if I told you this, but my goal was never to make it to the NFL. My goal
Mm.
was to be a Pro Bowl tight end in the NFL. And so,
Mm.
I felt good enough that I was a Pro Bowl, like one of the top tight ends in the league. And so
Yep.
I trained that way. I felt that way about my confidence level was there. Opportunity might not have arose, to make it there, but I worked towards that, but I fell short, and I made it to the
Yeah.
league and played for three teams. So,
Yep.
just making sure that your work ethic is there, because people will see that, like Troy, and he just took a hold of me and wanted to mold me. Teaching me how to run and
Yep.
all of I was just like just like a guinea pig out there,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
power, technique, and effort. And so, yeah, man, that's just a testimony to when people see how hard you work. A lot of times, people gravitate to that as well and want to support you in your efforts.
No, I think that's powerful, man. I think that you're really giving people an opportunity to really develop themselves, and understand that someone's always
Oh
watching.
yeah,
So when you think about your journey, you think about how important character is and how important opportunity is. Um, Dating back to your journey, how would you describe the importance of being a high character individual and how that can proliferate a person having the opportunity, right? And I'll say that to say what people don't realize is, man, once you get to college, once you get to the league, everybody can play.
yeah,
Everybody can play, right? So,
yep,
like, people will hear you say, um, you had a Pro Bowl mentality when it came to the way that you were training,
yeah,
the way that you were execute, probably the food that you were putting into your body, right? Your study, your field of study, and who you study, and your technique and your level of detail.
yeah,
But what people don't understand is, man, opportunity um, is it's vital,
yeah.
right? I mean, everybody can play. If you get an opportunity, Joe Gamble could easily be in the Hall of Fame, and
Oh,
people don't. It's really that small.
yeah, yeah, and opportunity is key. I mean, you think about professional teams. I just think about the sport that I played in football. A lot of times you see, because the playbooks are different, right?
Yeah,
Each playbook is different. There's various variables that go into the playbooks. From team to team, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators. You see some quarterbacks thrive once they leave a place. You see various players thrive, and so I feel like when I first stepped on the Eagles, for the Philadelphia Eagles team at the time, Coach Andy Reid was there. Man, you see how Travis Kelsey is thriving with him.
yeah,
I
yeah,
felt that's how he utilized his tight ends in Philly too.
yep,
Brent Selleck was there. I had an opportunity that possibly could have came. There were some things that took place, and I'm sure we'll get into the professional career piece.
hmm
But yeah, like there's so many variables that happen in the professional sports life cycle that that opportunity key is very vital to the success of players all over. And a lot of times people think that the best players are on the field or on the court at one time. That's not always the case, because
No, it doesn't have to be at
you
all.
got to think about there's a business side to it. If I give
Hmm.
this guy $45 million,
Yep,
over the course of how many years or whatever the case may be, that's an investment in this person. And so I can't
yep,
just like say, you know what, oh, he's scrubbing it up, we're just gonna go ahead and chalk up our 45 mil. No, that's not happening.
yep.
And so
No,
there's various guys along the course of that time that may come along that's better than this other player,
yep.
but the investment is so great in this player that was drafted that we have to let go of this player, because we already invested in this guy. And so
Yeah.
those are some conversations that not a lot of people are privy to when it comes to the business side of professional athletes in sports.
So you were in the locker room, right? So you're in the locker room, man. You played at the highest level. Describe your professional experience.
Oh man, it was a blessing. I, I remember to this day, man. And it's funny. Prior to that, prior to me ever walking into an NFL locker room, I was still training with Troy.
Yep.
And so, my first team was the Philadelphia Eagles. And so I remember I got a call with the Philadelphia Eagles. I actually drove up to Bethlehem. I think they were holding their training camp during that time. I gave
Yep.
my film to the coaches. Wanted an opportunity. Slept in the car. Drove
Yep.
a friend's car. Slept in the car because I didn't have any money at the time
Yep.
to get a hotel. And I remember a lot of my friends, that were training to make it to the NFL as well. They were relying on their agents, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yo, I'm not putting no faith in another man to
Yep.
get me to the point where I need to be. Like, yeah,
Yep.
of course, like, yeah, that could be helpful, but I know that nobody else is going to be able to speak for me and my skill set other than me." And
That's right.
so, that was huge for me because I called teams myself. I went up
Mm.
to Philly, to give them my film. They called me back, like a week later, and said we're gonna bring you in for a workout. Um, and so it was huge, man. And prior to that, I had a dream too. It's crazy how you talk about spirituality, and I was really tapped in during that time with my faith. Was consistently praying every day, to God, like bless me with this opportunity. I'm talking about I'm running at night and I'm praying while I'm running, like, yo, bless me with this opportunity. I'm not gonna, slip up. I'm, make sure that I give all glory to you, like all of that. Um, and so I had this vision at night. I ain't never had a dream in my life, Nigel, like that was so vivid. And I remember it to this day. The only dream
Mm.
I've ever remembered to this day, where I was actually playing for the Eagles in my dream. Uh,
Wow.
and it was so vivid that I woke up and I was supposed to train with Troy that day. I called him up like, "Yo, big bro, like I'm a chill on a day, but let me tell you about this dream." And I told Troy about it. This was prior to me even getting a call. And then I got a
Wow.
call from them saying, "Hey, we're gonna bring you in for a workout." I was like, "Wow, this is crazy." So I go up there for the workout. This is during training camp. Um, and it's three tight ends. It's myself, two other tight ends from Division I schools, and it ended up being between me and another tight end because we really turned it
Mm.
out. I'm talking
Yeah.
about one hand catches across the middle, sideline grabs, all of that,
Yeah.
crisp routes, everything looking good. The one tight end guy, he dropped the pass, so that was that immediately.
Gone.
He gone. You know how
Done.
it is.
Yeah.
Drop one pass. That's how when you said about professional athletes, everybody's good. Me and the other guy did not drop one pass the
I believe it.
entire workout. He dropped one pass, and that was it for him. And so we carried on with the workout. We were, going back and forth, very competitive. And they ended up signing that guy. And they signed
Mm.
him because he was 6'4" and I'm 6'2", and he
Yep.
went to BYU and I went to Shippensburg.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and so that really hurt at the time because I'm like, dang, I did everything right. I killed
I
it.
didn't drop a
One
pass. Yeah.
hand catches across the middle. I didn't drop anything. I showed my athleticism, all of that. And, I still didn't get that chance, right? And so I took the day, came back to Baltimore, took the day to kind of grieve, go through my process. And then the next day I was back at it, like working out back at Troy's. He even gave me the keys to the gym. I'm going hard so bad. Um,
Yeah.
and so I would say like 2 weeks later, the general manager calls me. I'm like, I see the Philly number. I'm like, oh, what's
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
He called me. I pick up. He like, hey, what you been up to? I'm like, I just been working. I think I was even at Troy's at the time when I was coming out the gym and he called. And I'm like, I'm working out. I've been working out. I ain't been doing nothing other than working out, to be honest.
Yep.
He was like, all right, well, we're gonna bring you in and sign you. 2 weeks later,
Wow.
yeah. So the guy they signed, he couldn't block, and so they
Mm.
signed him. He couldn't block. They ended up bringing me in. I ended up finishing the whole season with the
That's amazing.
Philadelphia Eagles. But my experience when I went in, man, I signed my contract, and then I go in the locker room, right? Go in the locker room, and inside of the locker room, they have also like the equipment room, equipment manager.
Yep.
So they take me in the locker room. First, they show me my locker. I got my name on nameplate on the joint and say Joel Gamble, Philadelphia
Yep.
Eagles, NFC East on the joint. And I'm like, yo, this is wild. Like,
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
once in a lifetime, like, you see it, you just like, wow. So I go back in the back with the equipment managers. Yo, they literally stitching my name on the back of my jersey. Game is stitched on the back of the jersey, and I'm just like, wow, this is like, this is like Madden for real. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
go back there, they
I'm a creative player.
it's creative players, real talk.
Yeah.
Like I go in the back and it looked like Foot Locker back there because they got all the cleats. I mean, the NFL, the companies make the cleats for the NFL, and then
Right.
consumers purchase the cleats, obviously, because
That
we
makes
wear them.
sense. Yep.
So we got all of the flavors of cleats, all the flavors of the month. You're talking about Reebok, Nike. At that time, Under Armour wasn't as popular as it is now.
Yeah.
But so I had to go with Nike at the time.
Yeah.
So shout out to Under Armour, y'all Baltimore representatives. but,
Yeah.
but I gotta get that shout out. But yeah, I go back, I get size for my cleats. They give me my helmet. I put my helmet on. They showing me the face mask that I could get. I mean, real
Nice.
talk, like status pro, like choose your face
Yeah.
mask.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so I finally got fitted for everything, get my workout gear and all of that. And I'm just like, wow, this is so overwhelming of a feeling. Like this is actually happening. Is all
Yeah.
my work is paying off. And so then they take me. They like, all right, well, offense is already in film session, right? So I'm like, cool. Like this is in 2009, and so I'm getting ready to drop the names of all the players that was on the offense at the time. So I walk into the offensive film study room, and everybody's watching film, and
Yep.
and so Donovan McNabb, he the first one to say
Wow.
something. He like, okay, all right, I see
Yeah. Yeah.
chest, big chest, all right.
Yeah.
He so so he was the first one. So Donovan McNabb was in there. Mike Vick, he had just got out of
Wow.
uh,
Yeah.
Kevin Cobb was the second
Yep.
quarterback. We had Brian Westbrook at the time was a running back. Yeah, yeah. LaShawn
Yeah.
McCoy, uh,
Yeah.
also one of our running backs. We had Deshaun Jackson, our receiver.
What?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. The offense was ridiculous, man. Jeremy Maclin, another receiver we
Yep.
had, Jason Avant. And so our squad was just like it was ridiculous. Jason Peters on the offensive
Yep.
line. It was crazy. And so, I'm sitting in
And you had Andy Reid, right?
Andy Reid was the coach. And the funny
Come on,
thing
man.
is, so Sean McDermott, who is the
Yep.
coach now for the Buffalo Bills, he was
Yep.
he was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles at that
Mm.
time as well. Marty Mortingwig,
Yep.
who coached for the Ravens for a little bit, he was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. So like Andy Reid's coaching tree is phenomenal.
Yeah.
All of the coaches that come from under him as well. But just walking into that film session and being around these guys that like Mike Vick, he's somebody that I played the video game with in '04. I remember
Sure.
'04 Madden where he was
Yeah.
unstoppable in the joint.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I'm sitting next to him, I'm catching passes from him now,
Hmm.
and what I tell a lot of people about this story that was huge too.
Median household income and average household income are two separate concepts that are often used in discussions of income and economic statistics. The median household income is the income level that separates the highest 50% of households from the lowest 50% of households. In other words, it is the income level at which half of all households earn more and half of all households earn less. The median household income is often used as a measure of overall economic well-being of the population or region. Now, on the other hand, the average household income is the total income earned by all households divided by the number of households. The average household of income can be skewed by extremely high or low incomes, so it may not accurately reflect the typical income level of a population. What I mean is, the average median income is not a meaningful term, but the median household income and average household income are both useful measures of income levels in a population or region.
Once I realized that now we're actually getting ready to go out on the field, then I
Yep,
think there was a switch that clicked, and I was like, all right, that's cool that I looked up to these guys and I played the
yep,
video game, but I'm here, and and I'm not just here to be like, I'm not just here to watch. I'm here to participate. And so
yep,
I remember first play, I catch a pass from Donovan McNabb. He like, all right, I see you, rookie.
yeah,
And sure enough, like that's how I carried it. I'm
mm,
here to do a job. I'm not here to spectate. I'm not here because of happenstance. I'm here
yep.
because first of all, I put the work in. Second of all, like I had the faith in myself, the belief, that God put me here for a reason. And I know I had the ability, and so that's how I kind of moved forward, throughout my career.
So that's interesting. So at any point, did you have any, feeling of imposter syndrome? And I say that because you're around these guys, right? Seasoned vets, regardless of where they played in college or seasoned vets. But knowing that, you knew that you belonged there because you put in the work, but until you actually do it, did you have any like imposter syndrome? Like I went to Shippensburg though. Like I came from Baltimore, right, playing in the streets. Then I made it over to Carver where I was dominant. But then I went to Shippensburg, which is I still dominated there. But these guys went to BYU or whomever and whatever.
Yeah.
Is there a thought in your mind that they gotta be something special?
Mm. When I think when so I, to carry on with that story, so at the end of the season, the general manager and player personnel director at Philly, they ended up going to Cleveland.
Mm,
So as you know that those are the folks that actually make the roster decisions and not the coaches. Uh,
yep,
so I'm like I'm building rapport with Andy Reid. I'm hearing from the coaches that he has me next on like his offensive schemes. Like he gonna run
yep,
tight end sets next year. We really gonna get to it. And next thing I know, I'm being shipped out to Cleveland. And so
yep,
in Cleveland, it was a completely different playbook. I come into Cleveland where there's several veteran tight ends already, and I think that was one of the toughest things in my career where I come into a situation where it's a completely different playbook. I have to completely relearn, the entire offensive scheme. And then on top of that, I have veterans that, we already know that the NFL is everybody's good, like you said.
yeah,
And so I have veterans that already know the playbook, that
yep,
are already, versed in everything that's taking place. And so I got to compete with these guys that
yeah,
already know the playbook, that are veterans in the league, that already are skilled. And then I got to learn the playbook. This is a completely different offense. And, I'm still getting my feet wet, when it comes to NFL and, it being my second year in the league.
yep,
Um, and so that's where I think it kind of set in like, oh, like this is tough, because
yeah,
it's my second team now, second year. um and I had to relearn things, and then I'm still competing not only against defenses, but I'm competing to get a job against guys that are already veterans in the league. um
yep,
and so I think that was the toughest part. I didn't feel as though it was imposter syndrome, but I felt as though, um, you know, players that with a different caliber of college that they come from get
yep,
more of an opportunity. And so I started to see that when it came to my second team. I started to see like, okay, they went to Florida, or they went to Georgia, or they went to here, and they were signed to such a deal for
yep,
3 or 4 years. And so now I start to see like, okay, this is different. I got to continue to earn like when they say Shippensburg, it's like, oh, okay, Shippensburg. Where's that at again?
Yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah,
so,
yeah.
you got to continue to kind of earn the respect of coaches, earn the respect of the player personnel people, and the players. I mean, you see them every day, so you end up earning respect of them. The fastest, to be honest.
Because they know you can play. You playing against them, right? So they know, right? Like you got to deal with me, regardless of where I came from. You got to deal with me.
Right.
So none of that stuff matters because I'll make you look bad if you're not ready to deal with me, and you know that. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? That's what come with this. You know what I mean? I'm an athlete, so yeah, you might have been recruited, or you might have had a better marketing system behind you, which could have placed you in these different schools, or I could just be a late bloomer.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I can't play. I could be a late bloomer. I might have, I might have grown as my body at a later stage of my life as a young man.
Yep, yep, and
Big deal.
and it's funny, man, because a lot of times you hear fans and they like, oh, well, Kyle Bowler wasn't good, or
Yep.
Josh McCown, or Tim Couch wasn't good, but yo,
Yep.
these dudes made they were in the league, they were let's look at that college film and they were like they were running circles around everybody in college. So I think a lot of times people people think because folks aren't as good in the league,
Yep.
do you realize how great Deion Sanders really was? Like he's probably one of the top athletes to ever walk the earth.
Ever.
Ever. He's running 4.140. That means he
Yeah.
can run track too. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So let's not get it twisted to the fact that some of the top name athletes that are playing on the basketball court and the football field and beyond are just freakish athletes. LeBron
Yeah.
James, this dude is jumping out of the gym, but 20 years in the league. You
It's impossible.
20 years in the league. He's 38 years old, and still dunking on everybody and their mama,
It's impossible.
and
It's impossible.
30 points a night. Like that's not normal. So
No.
you can't compare everybody else to LeBron. And
He's
so
got a shot at
and,
playing
and
ball with his kid.
right, and that also that doesn't mean that everybody isn't good because
Yep.
LeBron is that great. You feel me? So,
Yep.
these the professional athletes on each team, you're always going to have a freakish athlete. That's
Always.
like super fast, super strong, super big.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
type
Yeah.
of some type of superhero on the team.
Yeah.
Marvel character on the team or
Yeah.
something like that. You're gonna have Thanos over there in the corner, something,
Always.
with the Hawk over here. So yeah, man, it's but yeah, in Cleveland, it was tough for me because it was just a transition, another transition.
Yep.
And the playbook is really the killer, man. Everywhere you go when you learn in the playbook, you don't move as fast, because you're second guessing yourself, trying to figure out if you're doing the right thing or not. And I realized that because even in college, when you're a senior, you already got all the offense down and you know everything you're doing. So like you watching the freshmen, they making mistakes and messing up, and
No matter how talented they are.
you don't even have to look at the playbook. You already know the plays, so you just like go out there and boom, boom, you ready to rock and
Yep.
roll. So
Nah, that's spot on.
yeah,
That's spot on, man. I know, like, when I was coming out, man, I came in as a freshman, and you think you're like, oh man, I've played guys in my neighborhood that are at least as good as you guys. So when you look in the mirror at your ability, you're like, I should be able to get some minutes.
yeah,
Humbly. I should be able to.
respectful.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna see the floor this year. As a freshman. But once what people don't understand, man, like I know in basketball especially, we're playing 2 to 3 games in a week.
Mm,
There's certain sets that you need to learn and that you need to run
mm,
in order to be successful against the defenses that the other team is going to run,
yeah,
versus just being a top tier athlete in high school and being able to just dominate just off athletic ability.
mm,
The mentality and the mental aspect of the game, being able to pick up on the nuances and being able to understand the different defenses and being able to um, just understand just the deep level of understanding that you need to have of the game
yeah,
is night and day.
yeah,
Each level that you go up. Um, So I guess what I'm interested in is, with that being the case, professionally, when it comes down to sports, how did you navigate into business today?
Mm,
I know you have your foundation. I know you're with J.P. Morgan Chase.
yeah.
How did all of these different lessons and different experiences proliferate what you're doing today?
Nigel, to be honest, man, my transition from sports was tough.
Mm,
And I think a lot of the athletes kind of experience these things where you've been an athlete all your life, and then boom, it's over, and then
yeah,
you gotta pivot, or navigate, what's next. And so I think for 2 years, it took me, 2 years to kind of come to grips with, there's no more football for me, and I got to move forward. For me, I wasn't injured. I didn't retire off the bat. For me, football ended because of the lockout. In 2011, the lockout took place, which made it hard for guys like myself, that was a free agent at the time, to sign to any teams. They opened up the lockout for the draft at the time and pretty much filled up the rosters with draft picks. And so free agents such as T.O. and Chad Johnson and other guys, weren't able to sign, and so it was hard. It was like you had to wait for an injury to take place, or if one of these college players just wasn't good enough. And so I had a couple workouts after that, but just ended up having to move on. And so it was hard for me eventually, but I always knew that, growing up in Baltimore, remember, I didn't have a whole lot of resources. And so I always knew that I wanted to come back, and provide some of those resources that I didn't have as a kid, to our community in Baltimore, when I was successful. And so that's what I did, man. In 2011, came back to Baltimore, started my organization, where I was able to provide free football camps,
wow,
free, flag football leagues, health and wellness programs, literacy programs, provide resources for kids throughout Baltimore. Even stepped in when the pandemic hit and was able to provide, laptops for kids. Obviously, not everybody had, technology and things of that
yeah,
nature, especially growing up in inner cities. So wanted to bridge technology gap as well, and just provide resources for kids. I knew that, what I did know, Nigel, is that I had a passion for community. I had a passion for kids, and so I ended up becoming a teacher in Baltimore County school system for 9 years. I
wow,
was a teacher, after football. And then I transitioned into a couple roles in corporate America.
hmm
And I was able to build my brand. You talk about a brand. I was able to build my brand in the community, where, everybody kind of knew the things that I do, the resources that I'm able to provide, the network that I have. And so, Chase found me, man. JP Morgan
wow,
found me. Um, they know my teaching background. I taught college and career readiness in high school, an avid teacher. And so I was able to, bring that to the table where I'm a teacher. So I'm able to teach financial health workshops to our community, as well as to bring the network, because we know, when we talk about education and financial education, growing up, I ain't talking about money at all. you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
other than how much we don't have.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So now I'm able to have conversations with our communities around finances and, what that looks like, as far as savings, budget, building our credit, putting ourselves in better positions financially to be successful. And just changing the mindsets, because we know, like, we all, growing up, we want to be, like the Joneses, keep up with the Joneses. We want the Jordans. We want, everything that's new, that's fresh, especially with
Yep,
social media now. We want to look good for the gram, and take pictures, but we don't realize, man, that, a lot of times that's to our detriment, you know. And
absolutely.
so, we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, but, we're falling behind on our bills. We're falling behind with our credit. What does that look like, for our futures? And so just trying to change the mindset of our communities, trying to put people in a better position. I know you work a lot with investments. So just, trying to put people in a position to build that generational wealth, and to bridge that racial wealth divide. I just look at our communities, we're so far behind when it comes to finances, that it's just sometimes it's saddening and it's disheartening when we see the GoFundMe's pop up
Hmm.
when somebody passes away, and I just don't want to see that. And so one of the things I'm consistently looking to do is educate our communities, man, empower our communities. And I know, a lot of times for me, I didn't really want to walk into a bank.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I don't need that negative energy in my life.
Yep.
I
Yep.
know
Yep. Yep.
negative. I already know my bank account overdrawn. I don't need to.
That's right. Yeah.
But now, I'm trying to bring people into the bank. Um, not only to teach them the education piece, but to provide resources for small and
Hmm.
minority owned businesses, where we could cover topics such as like navigating cash flow,
Mm.
accessing capital, business development, digital marketing. What platforms are you on social media? Where are you actually placing your brick and mortar stores?
Yeah.
Things of that nature. Not only supporting businesses, but then home ownership. We know
Wow.
one of the biggest things, and you work in the real estate field. One of the
Yep.
biggest ways that you start to build wealth in the Black community is, purchasing your first home.
Hmm.
Right there, that's an asset that you have. No matter what the dollar bill drops to, you're always going to have that actual tangible asset that you'll have in your hand, that you'll always be able to take. It's always going to be equitable, and be able to get funds from. So, that's some of the things that I'm looking to do in the community now. I've been working in the community for years. And I pride myself on, the integrity piece, and being a man of character, a man of God, and just giving back to our people, and living a life of service, man. A lot of times we're always looking for me, me, me. What can you do for me? But I feel like I've been blessed with the platform that you see behind me, the teams that I played for. Um, but I think ultimately God blessed me with this platform to be able to give back to others. I played for three teams, played for a few years, but I've touched, many lives, just off the strength of the platform that I have, of being able to share my testimony that I played in the NFL, came from Baltimore, came from the streets, came from the hood. But I'm back, I'm here. You guys
Yeah.
can touch me, you could talk to me, you could reach out to me. I'm not somebody that's larger than life, that I don't want to talk to the kids, or I don't want to talk to families, or none of that. I wanted to make sure that I'm approachable, that I'm always in a community that people could always reach out to me, that I'm very humble, to the point where it doesn't, sometimes people don't even know I played in the league until I
Right.
walk into the room, and they be like, yo, you played in the league. They're like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Played in the league? Yeah, he played.
Yeah.
Well, I figure he big, so yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. I
lift
knew he
weights
did
for no
something.
reason.
Yeah.
So just big for no reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I just knew that I wanted to continue to provide resources for the community. And so that's what I'm doing, man. That's my aim. I'm always aiming to service, others, and that's what I'm gonna continue to do until God takes me away.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. And like, I guess what will help me is just to understand. Like, I know you talk about financial literacy, but are there any like, is there two or three things that you constantly see yourself talking to the kids about?
Mm. I would say, for the kids, it's mainly around like savings. What do you, and then what do you? So my mom always was like save when I was younger, but I ain't never know what I was saving for. So it's like,
Mm,
yo, like what exactly is the goal here? So mainly for kids, setting a goal. Like, what's your goal? Is it to save for something certain, or are you looking to do something? Do you want to go to college? Do you want to purchase a car later on? So you gotta make sure that you're saving. Right now for kids, I know it's not really a piece where they may have a budget and all of that. And you still could touch on that stuff because you want to know how much money is coming in and how much you're expending when it comes to like your bills and all. But really making sure that kids start to set a goal for themselves of what they're looking to do, and what they're trying to accomplish, whether it be you want to go get a car, or you want to go on a trip, to, I don't know, the Six Flags or something like that. Something as simple as that. You want to get a PlayStation 5. You know how much it is. You know how much, you're getting from your pay if you work. If you don't work, maybe you get an allowance, or maybe you get money from holidays and stuff like that. You're able to put some money aside. So ensuring that kids know what they're saving for, ensuring that they know they're knowledgeable about how to set goals for themselves,
Hmm.
being disciplined, sticking to the plan that they're trying to reach. And that goes for everything in life, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, those are
I
life skills.
yeah, I equate financial health with physical health too, because
Hmm.
I mean, we know what it's February now.
Yep.
Just a month ago, everybody was talking about their New Year's resolution, right? And so,
Hmm.
it might be a couple people that's listening to this call now that probably dropped off of that New Year's resolution. But because they might not have set a plan for themselves, they might not have any goals, and they don't have the discipline. And
That's right.
so those are three key things that I feel are necessary, not only with physical health, but financial health, mental health, all of those things, that we need to thrive, when it comes to that. So financial health, making sure you create a goal that you want to accomplish, you know, then making sure you have a plan that you can stick to, and then making sure that you stay disciplined over the course of that time and setting a time limit. Like, hey, I want to reach this by X date. So then you can hold yourself accountable. Like, yo, I said I was gonna do it. I set the plan, but I just wasn't disciplined enough. So you don't have excuse. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
So that's what that's what I share a lot of times, man. And I'm gonna continue to do that.
No, absolutely. And I think, to sum it up, I mean, really, having that plan, having that tangible timeline, what it allows you to do is it allows you to focus, right? It allows you to have that accountability, whether you are your own accountability partner or if you invite someone else in your world and you say, hey, look, here are my goals. And I'm going to accomplish this by this time. Right. And I don't think that's any different than what we did as athletes,
Yeah,
right? I think when we went into the gym, it's no point that we would ever go into the gym and say, I have no plan for my workout. I'm just here and I'm going to figure it out by the time I finish my workout. No, you can go in the gym, you're gonna say, okay, I'm doing legs today. I'm working on this component of my legs. I want my legs to get stronger here so that I can do this.
right, right.
I have this amount of time between when the season ended or in between games. And I want to be able to use this time to be able to maximize my ability to survive and to succeed in the future. And I think that for whatever reason, we deviate when it comes down to life.
Mm,
We deviate from a lot of these skills we learned in being athletes, right? So I think that the key that I try to bring to my life is what aspects allowed me to accomplish my goals as an athlete, right?
yeah.
I know you and I were talking about real estate a little bit earlier. I knew I wanted to be a scholarship athlete. So, in wanting to be a scholarship athlete, I made that determination when I was 8 years old.
Mm,
Well, you get your scholarship at 18. I was working a 10-year plan. So
wow.
you're talking about every single day and the amount of people that I had to meet, the amount of teammates that I had, the amount of coaches that I had, the amount of mentors that I had, the amount of travel and the investment that I put into my body, the amount of money that I put into my body, the food that I was eating, the clothes I was wearing, the way that I even made my identity.
Mm,
I identified as an athlete. The books that I read were books about athletes. The things that I watched on TV were shows, games about athletes.
wow.
Why don't we bring that mentality into life?
Yeah, yeah,
Why will we deviate from things that is a proven system?
yeah.
We said, hey, look, I'm gonna put together a 10-year plan. Now, I didn't know what college I was gonna go to. I knew I
Right,
was gonna go to college. I knew that the only way I was going to go to college was I had to be a scholarship athlete. So I didn't give myself another choice. I knew that I needed to excel in school in
right,
order to be a scholarship athlete. Right? I mean, the NCAA clearinghouse won't clear you unless you get a certain score on your SAT,
right. Yeah.
unless you have a certain GPA. Right? These are things that we know. Why do we know it? Because one, we've done it, but we've also done the research in order to know that in order for me to accomplish my goals within this timeline, these things need to happen.
Yeah.
And that's the same strategy that we have to apply to life every single day. And we need to set goals. It's nothing wrong with setting a goal from 10 years out. Now, granted, we were slightly before the social media age. We had the Black Planets and the MySpace, and like Facebook was kind of like growing and coming into its own. So
Hey,
we didn't really have that kind of stuff.
hey, man,
You know what I'm saying?
I had me a nice song on my MySpace page.
Yeah.
My page. I might hit you with some R&B, a little
You
fabulous.
know what I'm saying? Yeah. You can go to, but so let's think about that too though. So like even when you have your social media and we went to the MySpace, you had branding,
Yeah,
right? That was branding. You would go to the page, you would see the colors that I like, right? You see the images that I like.
yeah,
My top 8 would be the friends and the people that
yeah,
I admired or that I had close relationships with.
yeah,
So like all of this stuff is intentional.
yeah.
We act like this stuff just happens. None of this stuff just happens.
Mm,
None of this just happens, right? The song that we played had a representation of us and it made us feel a certain way. Now, whether or not people understood how that song made us feel, all of these things that are in our ecosystem are there for a reason. So
yeah,
we just need to be super intentional about everything that we're doing, super intentional about our routine, super intentional about the people that we spend time with, how we're branding ourselves, what we're posting, what we're talking about, what people are saying about us when we're not in the room. And the way that we control that is the way that we show up when we are in a room.
yeah,
So when you bring yourself to that room and you bring the best version of yourself, and you're the light that lights other people's candles, and you help them reach their goals, and you'll always reach your goal.
yeah.
You'll always reach your goal, man. So I too live my life very similar to you. I live a life to serve. This platform was built to be able to serve. This platform was built to be able to tell the Joe Gamble story, right? I think that what we covered today was specifically showing the power of what focus can do.
Mm,
It showed the power of what when you believe in yourself, when we have this uncanny ability to say that, hey, look, there's still something in the tank. I'm still able to have impact. I have the ability in what my high school coach said to me, which I found to be so profound but so simple, is that you can get anywhere from anywhere. Man, who knew that Joel Gamble from West Baltimore, born on December 25th, playing football? You started playing football in the street,
yep,
but really your passion was basketball. Who knew that you could end up in the NFL? Because you can get anywhere from anywhere, man. If your heart's still beating, man, and your body's still kicking, man, I mean, like you said, man, you had a terrible ankle injury. You were told that you would never play sports again.
never.
You can get anywhere from anywhere, man. So, I mean, I guess that's my takeaway, man. We can get anywhere from anywhere. I'm not sure if you have any final takeaways that you want to share.
Yeah, man. Similar to what you said, man. I always say, that if you have a dream, not everybody's going to realize your dream. And so don't let anybody deter you from that dream. Make sure you put 100% effort into that dream, and you'll reach it. And another thing, man, role models are not always defined by the folks that are making the monetary gains and things of that nature, but it's defined by service to others. And so, Nigel, I accommodate you, man, and really appreciate you for being a role model and living that life of service because it takes a whole lot more to live a life of service than to live a life that you just chasing the bag and you're doing for yourself. So kudos to you, man, giving back. Continue to give back. I'm always proud of yourself, Brandon, Winfield, all of you guys, that are giving back to the communities that you live in, that you serve, that you come from, because that's a whole lot more impactful than to just be capping on social.
Yep.
You feel me? So, yeah, man, I appreciate you, man.
No, I appreciate you too, bro. And finally, man, how can people get in contact with you? How can people support you today and in the future?
Man, you hit me up on my social media. Google me. That's the that's the term. Go ahead, Google your boy. Google your boy. But nah, uh,
Yeah.
Joel underscore Gamble on social media on IG. Feel free to reach out. JGCYO on IG as well as my organization page. Where we do all of our community work. And then look forward to, I'm changing my platform. I'm starting to really show forth, some of the financial health workshops and things that I do. So look forward to that.
Man, I really appreciate that, man. This is a special episode. I know I learned a lot, man. Looking forward to sharing this with the world, man. And Joe, I really appreciate you, man. Thanks for your time.